Maybe she was just in a good mood. The boy pointed to his ears and said, "Unfortunately, I can't hear anything you're saying." Sandra looked at him questioningly, as she couldn't hear anything even through the loud music. "What?" she shouted at him questioningly. He stepped closer to her, his lips almost at her ear. "What did you just say? And by the way, hello, I'm glad you're here," he replied. Sandra wondered if she should repeat what she had said earlier. "Nice to have you here," she said, looking into his green eyes. She unobtrusively scrutinized him from top to bottom. His white trainers seemed to have been freshly washed before he came to the dusty fairground. In good weather, the fairground was often as dusty as a cinder field. Although his trainers showed signs of wear, they were almost as good as new. His tight jeans emphasized his well-toned figure, and the white shirt with a stand-up collar looked great on him. He brought his lips close to her ear again. "Tell me, are those your friends a little further behind you? Shall we start the game slowly?" he asked as he gently stroked her upper arm and her fine arm hairs stood up. A slight shiver ran down her spine when his lips were just inches away from her ear. He chewed his gum and inhaled the scent of her hair. Finally, his lips lightly touched her earlobe. Sandra nodded in agreement when he asked if they were her friends. She moved her head back slightly and said, "I don't like gum chewers. It seems so silly. You think you're cool, but it looks like you're picking food out from between your teeth and chewing on it." The boy stopped chewing and came even closer to her. "Pretty cheeky, little girl," he replied and placed his hand on her hip without being asked. She swallowed and looked at the hand gently massaging her hip. Then she looked him in the eye and moved her face closer to his. He looked deep into her blue eyes. She took her right hand and reached behind his head, pulling him towards her. He paused briefly, spitting the chewing gum onto the floor. She smiled. His lips approached hers again and they kissed lightly and fleetingly, touching tenderly. He gently pushed his tongue against her lower lip. She flinched slightly at first, then returned the kiss and touched his lips with her tongue. He pulled her even closer to him and gently pushed his tongue into her mouth. She returned the kiss and let it happen. The music and the roar of the engines as the break dancer picked up speed again, the wind caressing her skin, it all felt like a rush that she had been waiting for so long. The boy groaned slightly and placed his other hand on her hip, pulling her closer to him. They didn't stop kissing and his hands traveled over her toned bottom, kneading it lightly. She stopped kissing him and looked into his eyes. "You so," she flirted and continued kissing him directly. "That little dirty bitch," said one of her friends from the background. It was Sonia, the strong redhead. "You're just jealous," Nadine, the dark-haired friend, replied and continued to cheer Sandra on. "I always knew she was a bitch. She acts aloof and as soon as the first guy turns up, she's making out. Well, he's really bloody good looking. Oh, leave her alone. As soon as someone approaches us, we'll do the same," Sonia agreed, nodding. "Yes, take what you need," she cheered. They all allowed Sandra to have fun. Hoping that the boy wasn't alone at the funfair and that perhaps some of his friends would turn up, they continued on their way. The boy stopped kissing Sandra, but kept his face on her cheek and looked at the girls. He whispered in her ear, "Did they really not know we've known each other for 2 months? No. Let them think I'm a bitch," she whispered to him. "Because that feels kind of good." He looked into her face, brushing a blonde strand behind her ear that was swirling from the breakdancer's airstream. "In that case, let's just keep playing the game. Let's go on the roller coaster," he suggested with a twinkle in his eye, grabbing her hand and pulling her towards the roller coaster. As Sandra walked past her friends, she briefly let go of his hand and said, "He's so hot." She looked very excited. Her friends smiled and rejoiced with her. "Come on, let's go on the 5-loop. The last car is the coolest." Then she turned round, jumped for joy back to the boy, took his hand and gave him a quick kiss. He let go of her hand, put his arm firmly around her waist and slowly walked with her and her friends to the Olympic looping roller coaster. The boy who had invited Sandra to the roller coaster was called Mark. She had met him over 2 months ago in the supermarket when she was buying a crate of mineral water after sports. Mark looked like a model, with full, half-length hair, smooth, tan skin and a tank top that emphasized his youthful muscles. Sandra had fallen in love with him at first sight, but couldn't get a word out. He pressed himself comfortably against her and brought the crate of water to the car park where her mother was waiting in the car. He persuaded her to meet again the next day at the same time and in the same place, and so they did. Slowly and step by step, he managed to win her heart. He generously took over the payment for both of them at the ticket office of the 5-loop. Mark was already 23 years old and worked as a qualified mechanic in a Toyota garage. They strolled arm in arm to the station of the 5-some looping, also known as the Olympia looping. The packed train pulled in and the passengers got off. The track of the Olympia looping was impressive, boasting a track height of 107 feet.